So apparently Jehovah's Witnesses just released a new like anti-apostate video. They've been loosening up their rules on disfellowshipping for a while because they are basically afraid of what Norway is going to do to them. We'll get into it in a minute. Listen to what they said about people who are simply oppositional to the organization, simply critical of the things that the organization does, okay? That includes me, and now you, since you're watching this.
The way you see the organization. Get back to me.
Did you get that message I sent you?
Why would you send that to me? Better yet, why are you reading that garbage? It's all lies.
Garbage? How do you know if it's garbage if you haven't even read it?
Listen, you need to talk with your elders.
Hey, that's a solid point, brother. How do you know it's garbage if you haven't read it?
Because you need help. And if you don't speak to them, I will.
That is okay.
Wow.
You know what he's threatening is that he's gonna be disfellowshipped if the elders hear that he's been saying anything critical of the organization to any degree whatsoever at all. And disfellowshipped means losing his friends and family and everything and everybody he ever knew and loved. So this guy is telling him, you said these things to me, you sent me this video of, whatever, I don't know, of Owen Morgan or something, whatever the fuck he sent him. And as a result, I'm going to destroy your life. I'm going to tear it down from beginning to end, from top to bottom. It's just going to be destroyed your entire life because you watched an Owen Morgan video. That is the ultimatum that he's given him. You talk to them and have a chance of maybe talking to your friends and family in the near future if they have mercy on you. Or I tell them and you lose everything on the spot. It shouldn't come down to this. It shouldn't be like this in religions. You should be able to just have your own fucking opinion on stuff. That's the problem. That's what we're complaining about. We don't have the right or the capability to have our own fucking opinions.
And if you don't speak to them, I will.
Wow. That's what you feel. I need help. I don't need any help, man. I'm finding the answers to my questions, bro. And I'm keeping an open mind.
Open mind? You're ignoring Jehovah's thinking.
Okay, and Jehovah's thinking is to keep a closed mind, of course. Because remember, you're not allowed to question any of this stuff. That is against the rules. You're not allowed to ask any questions at all. Here's an example. Somebody says, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting a blood transfusion. Jehovah's Witnesses' reply is, that's Jehovah's arrangement, and you have no place to question it, and you're going to be disfellowshipped for even saying that. Somebody says, the Bible says you shall not eat blood, quote unquote. That's the word. You shall not eat blood. But nobody is eating blood when they get a blood transfusion. It doesn't really make sense to me that we can't simply get a blood transfusion. You're disfellowshipped for that. That's against the rules. Saying, I'm not really fully convinced that being gay is wrong. I feel like gay people deserve love like everybody else, and that we're mistreating members of the LGBT community egregiously. And I would be friends with a gay person. That's a disfellowshipping offense because you're refusing to accept Jehovah's counsel or accept like Jehovah's expectations or whatever. It's effectively a totalitarian system where you simply cannot ask questions.
The truth saved our lives.
The truth saved our lives. In what way exactly?
Look, man, how long have we known each other? I would never steer you wrong. I'm not out to hurt you. I'm trying to help you.
So I guess what are they depicting here? They're depicting Jesus sitting out in the wilderness and Satan is trying to like convince him to whatever, trying to convince him to bow down and give one worship or one like form of worship to him or whatever.
How long have you
I didn't know Satan was Obi-Wan Kenobi.
known me?
Tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
I'm trying to share with you the truth.
Throw yourself down.
Do you really think I would steer you wrong?
So, just want to point something out here. They haven't even told us what it was. They haven't given us any indication it was anything even serious. Keep listening. I have a lot to say about this.
I will give you all this authority.
I definitely don't need any help from them.
Do an act of worship before me. Go away, Satan.
Stop. There's
Wait,
only
what?
one truth.
Sorry, that was weird.
Go away, Satan.
Stop. There's only one truth, and it comes from Jehovah.
You're gonna walk away like that? What are you so afraid of? Man,
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
So this guy in the red, he was just presenting questions about the organization. We don't even know what the questions were. We don't know if it was nonsense. If it's oppositional to the organization to any degree is the point. If you're oppositional to the organization, then you're an apostate. It's unacceptable. And not only is it unacceptable, but you are effectively acting as an agent of Satan. You are Satan in that moment. Regardless of what question you bring up, you are criticizing the leadership's decisions, not Jehovah's decisions, the leadership's decisions. And that is absolutely unacceptable. This is exactly what I did. Just question the leadership's decisions. Point out that people shouldn't be banned from talking to their friends and family when they're disfellowshipped. That's what I did. That's why my mom doesn't talk to me, partially. And that's it. Now, I haven't talked to her for who knows how long, a while. I mean, very, very rarely, intermittently. I haven't had a relationship with her in 20 years, since I was a child. So anyway, I was under the impression that Jehovah's Witnesses were moving in a slightly more progressive direction and being like a little bit more willing to open up. The reason that I believed that is because Jehovah's Witnesses are dealing with a court case right now in Norway, where, to my understanding, Norway, someone correct me in the comments if I have any details wrong on this, Norway removed their status as a religion, which means they're not allowed to do certain things that religions are allowed to do in Norway, such as marry people. You have to go to like a courthouse to actually sign the certificate now in Norway, instead of doing it instead of a Jehovah's Witness elder signing the certificate. In Norway, religions have the ability to make a certain amount of money for every member that they have. Like, they get a government stipend for every member. I don't know what it is. Like, for example, if the Catholic Church has 1 million people that live in Norway, they get $1 million a year. That kind of thing. And Jehovah's Witnesses don't get that anymore in Norway. And the reason is because they force membership. They coerce membership. You can't just leave the religion of your own free will, which is against the UN Declaration on Human Rights, by the way. You should be allowed to leave an organization if you choose. So anyway, Norway, because of the Norway thing, Jehovah's Witnesses tried to basically broaden the definition of disfellowship. They removed the definition. They removed the word disfellowshipping completely, supposedly. And they said, we're now calling it removed. We just remove people. We're not disfellowshipping people. And they think that makes it easier to like shun people or whatever. They even say, oh, we don't even shun people. There's no shunning happening over here. When in fact, they obviously do. Here's just a prime example. They straight up lied in court, said they don't shun people. And here we have an example of the whole process playing out right in front of our eyes. They obviously do shun people, right? There were a few examples of convention videos. I mean, they release convention videos every single year, of course, but they consistently have videos at the conventions about disfellowshipped people, about not hanging around people that are, that have questionable beliefs or whatever. Consistently. Here's just one old example of it. I don't want to watch the whole thing, but we'll skip around here a little bit.
To be with my family and friends. When I'm with the brothers and sisters in our congregation, it's the best place I could be. My children and I are so happy now. But
So she got reinstated. She was disfellowshipped originally, is the story.
it hasn't always been this way. My parents were missionaries when my mom got pregnant with me.
Missionary is a person that goes like to other areas of the world and they get a stipend. They get paid to go there by Jehovah's Witnesses. It's very uncommon to find somebody that's a missionary, but anyway.
Mom and Dad were very zealous, and people just assumed that I would follow in their footsteps. And for a while I did. I was the model child who was always held up as an example. Sure, the attention boosted my self-confidence, but it also put me under enormous pressure. It was like everyone was watching me, and I couldn't make a mistake.
So I think she says she gets baptized at like 7 years old. And if I remember correctly, this guy right here on screen, he was at her workplace. And she starts kind of dating him or whatever. And then she did something wrong. Here we go.
And I loved him. I loved him.
And naturally, he broke her heart because that's what people in the world, quote unquote, do. They break people's hearts every time. No exceptions.
In many ways, I felt free. For the first time in my life, I could just do what I wanted.
Being selfish. I mean, you're picking up on the little hints that she's dropping here, right? The little implications she's laying down about how she was bratty and unruly and she just didn't want to follow rules, but now she realizes that those rules are there for a reason and all that other stupid shit. Because you can't just make decisions for your own life as a Jehovah's Witness. It revolves around somebody else. It revolves around what you can do for the organization. And she goes to a hotel room with him.
It wasn't long before our relationship became intimate. I felt guilt at first. But after a while, it just seemed that this is what two people who love each other do. And I was willing to give up everything for him.
Why did you have to give up everything for him in the first place? Why was that a requirement? Can you just live your fucking life and not have it dictated by this organization constantly? It's never the type of situation where you could just do your thing and make decisions for yourself. They want to micromanage everything that you do. Everything. Again, this is like a 10-minute video. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but here's the fallout from it. She gets disfellowshipped. She's at the Kingdom Hall here, and I think this is a disfellowshipping announcement.
Fellowshipped.
Step back here.
Ended up getting disfellowshipped.
Sonia Erickson has been disfellowshipped.
It crushed my whole family.
She's not a part of the religion anymore. She's doing her own thing and living her own life. And she's not doing anything wrong. She's just in a relationship. That's it. It's not like she's like smoking weed and getting, drinking, getting high and all kinds of other drugs constantly. She just had a relationship with somebody. But that is outside the moral framework of this organization because you can't have a relationship with an outsider. Well, technically, I think you are allowed to, but, you have to be married before you have anything more than just a basic, friendship. And if you are ever alone with the person without a chaperone, a Jehovah's Witness chaperone there with you, then you'll be disfellowshipped. That's all she did. She was alone with with a non-Jehovah's Witness, a male. And the family's acting like they got hit in the chest. And they're all looking at her. And if you notice, they're sitting across the Kingdom Hall from her. The point that I'm getting to with all of this is that Jehovah's Witnesses pretend that disfellowshipping is now over. It's not. It was never over. They changed the word from disfellowship to removed, but that last video we watched, I think it's pretty clear that they're still doing the shunning thing. They still shun. They pretend to open up, but in the end, they don't. Eventually, they show a scene here in this video where she needed her family members for something urgently, and they ignored it. This is exactly what happened to me, by the way. I was in some bad fucking situations when I left, and this exact thing happened to me.
Mom and Dad saw that they needed to be loyal, just like Aaron. They loved me and wanted me to come back to Jehovah. I tried to contact them. I just wanted to talk and to hear their voice. I missed being with my family.
And the family's being forced to choose between you and Jehovah. They can't have both, is the implication here. Is it even an implication? They're outright saying it. So the point is that Jehovah's Witnesses put people in dangerous situations because they don't fucking care about their people or you or anybody else. They care about obedience, first and foremost. It's all about obedience. And it's vile. It's wrong. Jump forward a little bit here, and she starts studying with elders again, comes back to the meetings, and everybody suddenly welcomes her with open arms. Not when she starts attending the meetings again. When she's reinstated, which is like a year-long process at least. Part of the process of coming back is being shunned for like a year straight, basically. You have to be shunned that entire time. You have to be miserable for a year before they will release your family's love like a hostage. It is truthfully vile. It is absolutely vile. Here's a video too. This is also a little bit longer. I'm going to try to keep it succinct, but here's a video of Stephen Lett, governing body member, explaining what types of people apostates are and why we should have no communication with them. Again, you're now an apostate for watching this. This is not a high bar to meet. You don't have to be an ex-Jehovah's Witness or any of that. All you have to do is be critical of the religion or consume critical materials. That's it.
Satan continues his work as an evil ventriloquist using not serpents, but human puppets to enunciate his voice, these acting as his agents, either wittingly or unwittingly.
As they showed in the first video, the guy was effectively acting as an agent of Satan, right? He was Satan in that moment. You know what got Jehovah's Witnesses banned from certain countries specifically? Claiming that disfellowshipped people are mentally diseased. Literally, they've been infected by Satan and are not safe to speak to anymore. That's what got them removed as a religion, or that's what prevents them from operating as a religion in Russia today specifically.
But now let's discuss 3 examples of how our fine shepherd tells us one thing, but Satan's underlings or strangers tell us something opposite. We must be vigilant to listen to the right voice. Our fine shepherd tells us, as our first example, these words at Matthew chapter 24, verses 45 through 47.
Let me just jump forward here and skip past this. Who really is the faithful and discreet slave of whom his master is appointed over his domestics? Jehovah's Witness governing body believes they are the faithful and discreet slave, which basically means they believe that they speak for God. That's what he's trying to communicate here.
We know the Master Jesus found the faithful and discreet slave spiritually feeding right-hearted ones in 1919.
Big, long, complicated thing, middle. Jesus chose the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses in 1919 to be his representative on earth, even though Jehovah's Witnesses didn't exist until 1933, and the governing body didn't have any power whatsoever until the 80s or the 70s or something. But whatever, okay, fine.
And at a future time will appoint him over all his belongings. So what's the implication? Obviously, even now, Jesus fully trusts the faithful slave.
He trusts the governing body, is what they're saying. He trusts me, Stephen Lett, not you.
And all of us, even individual members of the governing body, should do the same.
All of us, even individual members of the governing body, should trust the decision of the governing body.
But what does the voice of strangers say on this subject? Don't trust the faithful slave. He will mislead you.
Well, I'm saying it's not the faithful slave. I'm saying Jehovah's Witnesses didn't exist as a religion until 1933, I think, or somewhere in there. Joseph Rutherford did a hostile takeover of the International Bible Students organization. He stole the properties from that group and in 1933 renamed it to Jehovah's Witnesses after a massive power struggle and everything else, where they lost like 1/7 of their leadership. And you're telling me in 1919, God chose the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses as his arbiters on earth? Jehovah's Witnesses didn't exist. The governing body certainly didn't exist, like at least in its current form. If anything, we should be looking to the Bible students, who, by the way, still exist as an organization. We should be looking at them, right? If Jesus chose his main man on planet Earth in 1919, I'm saying Jesus is perfect, right? Jehovah is perfect. If that's the case, then why is the governing body so incredibly deeply flawed from the ground up? Everything that they say and do has absurd ramifications that are unnecessary. They hurt countless people for no fucking reason. And they flip-flop constantly. I wrote a book about this, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, and I have a few questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, like for the governing body, that I would like answered. Page 182 is where it starts in my book, roughly, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses. It's on Amazon and Audible if you're interested. December 22nd, 1949, Jehovah's Witnesses awake. It says, have your hair or teeth fallen out? Has arthritis frozen your joints? Have a hole in your skull that needs plugging up? Need a new roof in your mouth? Or do you need a replacement for your lungs, kidneys, or heart? If so, you'll be interested to know that there are many shops around the country that are now in the business of supplying spare parts for the human body, both natural and artificial. No indication that that's a bad thing right now. About 12 years later, 1961, is there anything in the Bible against giving one's eyes after death to be transplanted to some living person? The question of placing one's body or parts of one's body at the disposal of men of science or doctors at one's death for purposes of scientific experimentation or replacement in others is frowned upon by certain religious bodies. Who and why? However, it does not seem that any scriptural principle or law is involved. It's therefore something that each individual must decide for himself. Okay, so 1949, the first mention of organ donation. 1961, they're iffy about it. 1967, November 15th Watchtower, page 702 to 704 in the bound volume. Sustaining one's life by means of the body or part of the body of another human would be cannibalism, a practice abhorrent to all civilized people. It's not our place to decide whether such operations are advisable from a scientific or medical standpoint. Christians who have been enlightened by God's word do not need to make these decisions based simply on the basis of personal whim or emotion. They can consider the divine principles and use these in making personal decisions as they look to God for direction, trusting him and putting their confidence in the future that he has in store for those who love him. So, 1961, organ donation okay. 1967, banned. These mandates are coming from the governing body, from the faithful and discreet slave, by the way. Why were they wrong in 1967? Why did they get it wrong after being chosen by Jesus in 1919 to lead his chosen organization? At the bare minimum, they should just not take a stance on it unless they're 100% sure, right? Seems to me. September 1st, 1979. So now we are 7 years past when they banned it, right? How many people died in those 7 years because they wouldn't take a donation? Not zero. I know Jehovah's Witnesses, or I guess know of Jehovah's Witnesses, like family members, that needed a kidney donation, for example, recently. And they got one. They got a kidney donation. He wouldn't have made it if he hadn't gotten that donation. How many wouldn't have made it from 1967 to 75? I guess that's 8 years, right? Here's their next take, September 1st, 1975, page 519 of the Watchtower bound volume. A peculiar factor sometimes noted is a so-called personality transplant. That is, the recipient, in some cases, has seemed to adopt certain personality factors of the person from whom the organ came. They believe that getting somebody's kidney transplants their personality. Okay, so we're 8 years into the ban. How many people died? Now they're giving an even harsher ban. 1980. We're 13 years in now. March 15th, 1980, page 31 of the Watchtower. There's no biblical command pointedly forbidding the taking in of other human tissue. It's a matter of personal decision. So who f***ed up? Where along the way did the governing body f*** up? It seems blatantly obvious to me that they do not have the ear of Jesus, right? They are not in communication with the Most High over all the earth and the perfect man who's supposed to rule over everything with perfect reasoning skills. Why should we trust you? I just gave one example that got countless people killed. How many? I don't know. I could give examples of things that got people killed that they still don't view as wrong. You know, they used to put a whole section in the Watchtower about children who died because they because their parents refused to allow them to take blood transfusions. And they realized how, God, tacky isn't the right word for this, is it? For lack of a better term, they realized how tacky that is, and they stopped doing it. So we have no fucking clue how many people, how many children, let alone adults, died from the decision not to take a blood transfusion, which is very obviously incorrect. Seeing as the Bible says you shouldn't eat blood. Doesn't say you can't take it in for medical procedures, which existed at the time, by the way, not transfusions, but it was used for medical procedures back then, bloodletting and things. How many people have died because of the stupid decisions of the governing body that they reversed 13 years later like that? How many? Not zero. So forgive me if I don't trust a word out of your freaking mouth. I guess this sucker on screen here is going to continue listening to the governing body, which includes himself. Good luck. And for the record, do you know that Stephen Lett, guy on screen here, had a nephew that was gay and committed suicide after he was disfellowshipped? After Stephen Lett stopped talking to him, he checked out because he couldn't handle the loss that Jehovah's Witnesses fabricated in his life. Forgive me if I don't trust you to make decisions for me. Anyway, I'm sorry, man. Like, I know that, I think a lot of the governing body members are probably honest people that believe what they're saying and doing is right, but they are getting people killed, literally. And it is, and they're lying. Just flat out, brazenly, openly, bald-faced lying in open court, for example, with Jeffrey Jackson in the Australian Royal Commission, claiming things that are not true under oath. So forgive me if I don't trust you. These people, man, I just can't with them. I can't do it. I cannot forgive them for what they have done. I cannot forgive them for the lives that they have ended, intentionally or not. Tell me your thoughts. Depraved indifference should get them charged. Well, it wasn't even indifference. It was an intentional, knowing choice that they made to, and they can change. Any single one of them could go to the rest of the governing body and they could say, Jehovah is telling me, blah, 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 blah. And they would be trusted when they said it because they are God's chosen people, because they have God's ear, because they are communicated with directly by God. Like, not that he speaks into their minds, but that their hearts are in tune with God's heart in a way that nobody else is, basically. That's kind of their mindset on it. I wonder, did Jehovah change his mind in 1967, 75, and then 80? What happened? I thought their hearts were in tune with God's. Anyway, any single one of these people could change it, and they choose not to. On a daily basis, they choose not to, despite how many people are dying. It's unforgivable.
Well, now, as Jehovah's Witnesses, as runners, even though some of us have become a little weary, it almost seems as though Jehovah has provided meat in due season, because he's held up before all of us a new goal, a new year, something to reach out for, and it just seems it's given all of us so much more energy and power in this final burst of speed for the finish line. And that's the year 1975. As one brother put it, stay alive to 75.
They believed the end would be here before 75. So people, if you're on your deathbed, make it one more hour, one more day, one more week, one more month, whatever it takes. Make it to 1975 and you will never have to die. It was an overt, open decision made by the governing body to claim that the end was coming right around the corner. It was an end times prediction is what it was. And it failed. And you know what they did when it failed? They blamed the membership. They said, oh, it was just some zealous members who believed that was happening. No, none of the leadership believed that. That was an example of a leader in the organization at a convention announcing a new catchphrase that they had, stay alive to 75. There was no like member-wide like frenzy that was not encouraged by the leadership. The whole thing was driven by the leadership because they did some quote-unquote math on the back end and quote-unquote discovered that the earth was 6,000 years old as of, I guess that Adam and Eve came to be 6,000 years ago, because they're old earth creationists, actually. That Adam and Eve were created 6,000 years ago as of 1975. And God works in Jubilee cycles. The seventh day of every week is the Sabbath. The seventh year is one where debts are forgiven. The 7 times 7th year, which is the 49th year, is a special cycle and all this other shit. So the 7th year in this case, or the 7th millennium, I guess, is some special day for them, some special year. And they believed that was when the end was going to come, and they start spreading it around. They were completely full of shit the whole time. The governing body has always been full of it. They've always lied and then tried to cover up their lies when it blew up in their faces. Since day one. I don't fear them anymore. You know why? Deuteronomy 18:22. I have a whole chapter about this. When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the word does not come to pass or come true, that is a word the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken presumptuously. You need not be afraid of him. I don't fear Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I will never fear Jehovah's Witnesses anymore. I will never fear Stephen Lett again, because he has made it as clear as he possibly could that he is a false prophet. They are all false prophets. This isn't like an on the fence type of thing. Everybody knows that they're false prophets now, and they now put their efforts toward hiding that fact, into covering that up, the fact that they're false prophets. Hang on. They now make videos about not listening to people who point out that they're false prophets.
Look, man, how long have we known each other? I would never steer you wrong. I'm not out to hurt you. I'm trying to help you.
They're trying to convince people not to talk to apostates, quote unquote, not to talk to people who point out that 1975 was a false prophet. At least they've got a billion they've got a billion others under their belt, a billion other prophecies, false prophecies. That's just one. That is a big one. And they're telling people, if you if you listen to these people, if you speak to them at all, you will be disfellowshipped. You will lose everything. It's unforgivable. And it's transparently nonsense. It's transparently manipulative trash. So, again, Deuteronomy 18:22. I'm not afraid of them, and you shouldn't be either.